In this video, we're going to see about neck of femur fractures. Before moving on, make sure to hit the subscribe button right now so that you won't miss out any of my upcoming videos. If you're a medical student who's very frustrated in your studies right now, you may be a first year, second year, third year, fourth year, intern, or even a postgraduate, don't worry, I'm here for you. Now, Vids Made Simple is a channel which I've created 8 years back, and I have over 60,000 subscribers and got very positive comments from all over the world. And I thought of starting this mentorship program for all the students struggling out there. You can message me on this number and you can reach me out and you can book your slot. We can have a one-on-one discussion about the problems you're facing in vet school. May it be time management, may it be difficulty in studying, may it be the resources, doubts about the resources to use, and all that. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about in vet school. And if you are uncertain about choosing a particular specialty and you want to talk about something like that, I'm always here for you. You can reach me out anytime. Now, blood supply of the femoral head is quite unique in that it has got a retrograde blood supply. We know that the head of femur receives its blood supply from the medial and lateral circumflex femoral vessels, which gives the retinacular arteries, which goes above through the neck and supplies the head of the femur. So that's why in the neck of femur fracture, the blood supply to the head of femur will be affected, leading to various complications like non-union of the fracture site and avascular necrosis. We'll talk about these specific topics like non-union, avascular necrosis in separate videos. Neck of femur non-union itself is a separate topic, and avascular necrosis of head of femur is an important topic. We'll talk about these in our upcoming videos. Neck of femur fracture is quite common in elderly population, and it is more common in females as compared to males because of postmenopausal osteoporosis. And in young patients, it can occur in high velocity injury like road traffic accidents. Clinical features: these patients present with hip pain and they'll be unable to stand and bear weight over the fractured side, and the limb can be shortened and externally rotated. As I said that it can occur in high velocity injuries, always make sure to rule out other injuries which can be present along with the neck of femur fracture. Now, what are the imaging we need to do? We need to take an X-ray of the pelvis with bilateral hip anteroposterior view. Along with that, we need to take a special view called a cross-table lateral view. This is the anteroposterior view. We all know that. Now, cross-table lateral view, like the usual lateral view we need to take for the hip joint, is the frog leg lateral, but here in this fracture it will be difficult to position the patient in frog leg lateral position, as the patient will have a fracture in the hip and it will be difficult to position them in that particular position. That's why we take a special view called a cross-table lateral view, where you flex the unaffected side hip to 90 degree, hip and knee to 90 degree, and you project the beam 45 degree from 45 degree to the vertical of the fractured side hip, as I show here the direction of the beam projection with this arrow mark, and the fracture side leg is internally rotated by about 15 degree. This is how a cross-table lateral view is taken. Now, there's another view called traction with internal rotation view. I talked about this while speaking about intertrochanteric femur fracture. So here you give traction in line along with internally rotating the limb. Now, this will keep the fracture in neutral proper position, and you'll be able to delineate the fracture pattern properly. Now, MRI is very rarely used for neck of femur fractures. In case you're unable to see any neck of femur fracture in X-ray, but you're suspecting it because of the pain and various features in the patient, you can take an MRI to look for any occult fractures which are not seen on X-ray. Now, there are various classifications for neck of femur fracture. The anatomical classification is based on where the fracture line is. The subcapital type is where it is just below the head of the femur. The transcervical is in the middle of the neck of femur. And the basic cervical one is at the base of the neck of femur. Now, Powell's classification is a very important classification because it has a role in deciding the management. We measure an angle called Powell's angle here. The Powell's angle is the angle between the fracture line and the horizontal line. The horizontal line means the line which is drawn horizontally, and one more line is drawn along the fracture line, and the angle between these two lines is measured, and that is the Powell's angle. Based on this, we classify neck of femur fracture into 3 types. So Powell's type 1 is when this angle is less than 30 degree. Here you see that the fracture line is more horizontal. The thing about this fracture, Powell's type 1, is that the fracture line is more horizontal, so the vertical shear stress which is going to displace the fracture is very less, because you see that the head of the femur along with the remaining femur, which is at the fracture side, they are meeting, and the vertical shear is very less because it is more of a horizontal fracture. So the chances of failure and displacement is less in this type of fracture. So if the angle between the fracture line and the horizontal line is 30 to 50 degree, then it is Powell's type 2. Here the fracture is slightly more vertical as compared to the type 1. Now the type 3 is when the angle between the fracture line and the horizontal line is more than 50 degrees. Here you see the fracture line is more vertical, which means there is high vertical shear strain along the fracture site, and there are high chance of failure by the shear strain which is going to happen at the fracture site. So that is what is importance of knowing the Powell's classification. Now Gordon's classification it classifies neck of femur fracture into 4 types based on the fracture, if the fracture line is complete or incomplete, and if the displacement is complete or incomplete. It also includes the trabecular continuity in the acetabulum and the head of femur. So the type 1 Gordon's classification shows a valgus impacted fracture or an incomplete fracture. Here in the left image on the left, you see that the fracture is in valgus. Valgus means the distal part of the fracture went into abduction as compared to the head of the femur. So the distal femur has went into abduction as compared to the head of the femur, and it is impacted into the head of femur. So this is what is called as an impaction with valgus impaction fracture. Type 1 fracture also includes undisplaced and incomplete fractures. As you can see here, the fracture line is not even complete here. So this is type 1 fracture. Gordon's type 2 is having a complete fracture line. You see that fracture line is complete in the neck of femur, but the fracture is not displaced. So this is what is type 2. Whereas type 3 is a complete fracture line. You see the fracture line is complete and it is also partially displaced. So fracture line is not the fracture is not completely displaced. It's still having some communication, some contact between the proximal and distal fragment, but it is partially having no contact also. So it is partially displaced. This is type 3. And Gordon's type 4 is where the fracture line is complete and also it is completely displaced. So it's like no communication, no proper communication, completely displaced. The head of the femur and the distal femur is completely displaced. This is what is called as a type 4. As I said, there is high chances of non-union in neck of femur fracture because of its peculiar blood supply. So it's almost always surgery is the treatment of choice. Now we have to decide between joint replacement and osteosynthesis. If you have to decide between broadly the treatment options, osteosynthesis means using implants to fix the fracture, whereas joint replacement is removing the fractured part of the bone, the head of the femur and everything, and replacing it with prosthetic artificial joints. So usually the joint replacement preferred in the elderly population who are arthritic and osteoporotic, whereas osteosynthesis is preferred in young patients because they have higher chances of bone union. Now, as I said, osteosynthesis is preferred in young adults who are having good bone quality, and however, since the neck of femur is having this type of peculiar blood supply, there are still high chances of avascular necrosis, non-union, and implant failure even after surgery. So various options used for neck of femur fracture osteosynthesis are CC screw fixation, a dynamic hip screw, also called as the sliding hip screw. You need to know at least about CC screw and dynamic hip screw. And other options are femoral neck system and locking plates which can be used. However, the commonly used ones are the CC screws and the dynamic hip screw. The CC screw can be 3 or 4 CC screws can be used. If 3 screws are used, usually they are preferred to be placed in an inverted triangle configuration for maximum hold and stability. So there is a special particular way of using 3 CC screws in neck of femur fracture, which is called as biplane double supported screw fixation, also called as BDSF. This is having support in 2 planes, that is why it's called biplane, and it's like providing double support, and you are using the screws in the 2 planes, but we are using only 3 screws to do this particular type of fixation, and it has got more stability as compared to the inverted triangular configuration. Now coming to arthroplasty, the benefits of arthroplasty over osteosynthesis is, after surgical fixation using osteosynthesis, we always delay the weight bearing. We ask the patient to be in bed for some time and slowly start walking and everything. It will take at least like 6 weeks to start walking properly and everything. As compared to arthroplasty, when you replace the joint and if the surgery goes well, you can make the patient start walking even sometimes on post-op day 1 itself. So that is a very important advantage of arthroplasty over osteosynthesis. And here there is no risk of avascular necrosis, non-union, and implant failure is also lesser as compared to osteosynthesis because we are already removing the fracture site while doing replacement. So there is nothing is gonna, and the head of the femur also is gonna be removed in arthroplasty. So there is no risk of avascular necrosis of the head of femur, and we don't have to worry about non-union because the fracture itself is removed and we are putting an artificial joint inside, and implant failure rates are lesser in arthroplasty as compared to osteosynthesis. Now, when it comes to joint replacement, there are two options. You can decide between bipolar hemiarthroplasty and total hip replacement. Now, bipolar hemiarthroplasty is the one where we replace only the femoral component. This can be done in very old patient, and it is not usually preferred in the young population. Here, replace the only the head of the femur along with the fractured neck is removed and replaced with the femoral component implant. So the bipolar hemiarthroplasty can be cemented or uncemented. Cemented means we augment it with using bone cement. It is usually done in elderly population who are very osteoporotic and there's not going to be enough stability. We're going to use bone cement to augment the stability. And uncemented is done in young population, young patients who have good bone stock, and in those patients in whom the osteosynthesis failed or osteosynthesis is not favorable to be performed. A total hip replacement is where you replace both the femoral component as well as the acetabular component. Now, if you have to do arthroplasty in a young patient where you couldn't do osteosynthesis, or if the osteosynthesis failed and you have to convert it into arthroplasty, total hip replacement is always preferred over bipolar hemiarthroplasty in younger patients. And after total hip replacement, the reoperation rates are very less as compared to bipolar hemiarthroplasty. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share this video to your friends, and hit the subscribe button so that I can make more videos for you guys. You can watch more of my orthopedic videos by clicking here, and you can explore my channel. I have videos on all the subjects in med school, and I'm gonna keep making more videos for you guys. And also you can download the lecture slides of this video in the comment section below, and you can contact me in the mobile number I have provided in this video as well as in the description of this video if you want to have a separate discussion session with me about any doubts you have in medical college. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video.